It's amazing that I still remember all these things, Selba.
They're just all
From
back there in a Rolodex file
1998
in
to
your
05,
mind.
sat and sold life insurance, Term
have
is
it.
just as likely to get denied.
Oh, okay.
If you already have the term, you can convert it.
Okay.
But to get the term, it might actually be harder to get the term with an issue than it might whole life. Money can be complicated. Let a nerd help you. We're here to demystify the complex nature of money by getting you answers from financial nerds and whiz kids. Welcome to Ask the Money Nerds, a weekly segment of the Wealth Labs podcast where we answer your most pressing money questions. Would you like to use cash flow banking but have had a health issue preventing you from getting the rating you want, right? Trying to get the right insurance? What other options are there? Are there better companies than others or alternatives that maybe would create a similar benefit?
We've talked about 401ks, 401bs, and how those numbers and letters are codes within the tax plan. Mm-hmm. Today, we have a new one that we haven't really talked about on Ask the Money Nerds. It's a 457.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell us what a 457 plan is, and then we can get into Kaysen's question?
I mean, you don't see them very often. It's not that much different than a 401k. It's a retirement. They're all related with different nuances.
They're all forms of retirement plans.
Right. You don't see a lot of 457s. So
okay. Yeah. All right. So here's what Here's what Kaysen is wondering. With the retirement accounts, I have enough to build a duplex on a property we currently own. In a year, when I finish, I would like to set up cash flow banking, but have encountered a problem. I'm 39 and a year ago had melanoma skin cancer removed. The two companies I have spoken with
companies that specifically deal with people that are rated, or they get like a lower rating on a policy or denied on a policy. And yeah, certain companies, if it's smaller amounts, might be more apt to do it than others. Once you hit a certain amount, it gets to reinsurance, and it's kind of like, doesn't really matter who you're with. It's all kind of the same rules, but under a certain amount, some companies, that's $1 million death benefit. Others, it might be $5 million. With a broker. The other thing you can consider is putting the policies on someone else. So whether you have a spouse or whether you have kids, obviously, if you're the main one making money, you want to protect that income and have the death benefit there. But that's also another option, so that you're not just kind of stuck. When we were having a hard time getting the rating that I wanted, we put some more on my wife and kind of started funding her policies. So that's another option.
Okay. Now, how common is it for
I mean, they have ratings for people who are in remission from cancer. They might have a time period before they're willing to reissue or give a policy, where it's been in remission for a certain period of time. Certain heart issues, there's, each company has a little bit of nuance, and there's a lot of insurance companies out there. But I would say, make sure if you're going to go with this overfunded cash value, you stay with a mutual company. It's got to be worth billions and billions of dollars. You want only A ratings. I mean, A- is okay or whatever. You want them to be around for 100 years. You want a minimum guarantee of 4%. Some initial testing, and then going and testing out who would actually go, okay, we're willing to consider this. And that's how we found the right company to do it for me. So check with cashflowbanking.com, schedule an appointment, tell them the situation, and see if they can get you with someone that can kind of help out.
Now, what about a wait period? You had mentioned like taking some time before reapplying.
Yeah, and this is why I like doing kind of the check in before you actually do the full application, or they kind of like test it out, and go, okay, is there, what would you do so that you're not being shown as being denied, right? Because on it, but yeah, unfortunately, some of these things is just kind of the way it goes. But I do think there's some possibilities if it truly is superficial, and some companies are going to be more sensitive than others. But you might have this mark if you have that denial.
Yeah.
What else do we have on here? Any other items to cover that I put on here?
Converting term insurance if you have it.
So sometimes.
Learn something new right now.
Yeah, so I bought term insurance policies before and then converted them when my cash flow improved later on, or maybe I was in the middle of so many things I was worried about being able to do that. We bought term on my wife first when we were maximizing some of my whole life policies, and then we converted that term later on. So yeah, you can totally get convertible term.
Okay, so if Kason is in a period where he has to wait 2 to 5 years before reapplying, or he, goes to cash flow banking and they're not able to find a company that will insure him, he could start with
because sometimes they'll give you a much higher rating on the whole life, which is a negative rating where you're paying more premium, but they might not be willing to issue term because there's going to be a higher premium on the whole life policy.
Okay.
So
Good to know that.
It's amazing that I still remember all these things, Selba.
They're just all back there in a Rolodex file in your
1998 to 05,
mind.
sat and sold life insurance, It's like people could get into technology conversations. I'd be like, cool.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have a whole lot to contribute. Yeah. So, all right. Now you have the ability to turn thoughts into profits. Hopefully you find that insurance broker. Hopefully you can find a way to do this or put it on someone else, or you have a waiting period before reapplying. Maybe you can have someone that goes and checks on a couple companies to see if someone's more interested before you do the full application. But go out there, build the life you love. Sounds like you're doing good things.